Yesterday was the last day of Cosatu's three-day special Central Executive Committee meeting. That's a CEC meeting held in Johannesburg. On the cards was the African National Congress's task team report that was presented by the ANC's Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. Other matters that were expected to come out of the meeting was NUMSA's future in the Federation and the decision on Zwelinzima Vavi's suspension. We are joined by the latter. Let's welcome the General Secretary of Cosatu, Zwelinzima Vavi. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming in and welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you very much, Leanne.
All right. Let's talk about the latest development with the Trade Union Federation. Where does it stand on NUMSA's future?
Well, let me just say this before I respond to that question. That obviously the workers' wish would have been that when we come to address the media this morning or any other day, we will be discussing and reporting back about how we're taking forward their own struggles for a national minimum wage. They would have been very happy if we were to say, this is the amount we will be advancing in the summit to be held in Nedlek next week. This is how we're going to be battling around the issue of labor brokers and so forth and so forth. We're not yet there. We still have to pass through this very difficult phase in the history of Cosatu. Unity and cohesion has not been an issue of our strength in the recent past. Everybody accept that we must work hard to close this chapter. So this meeting of the Central Executive Committee was convened not for the reasons that you are outlining, but to give the ANC task team an opportunity to report back. As you will recall, the issues that we are raising, amongst others, are issues that the CC agreed to put in abeyance and so that it can give the ANC an opportunity to develop a package of proposals that can be considered. So it was now time to consider the package that the ANC presented on Tuesday.
Yeah. And
the whole day we're interacting with that process. And after the ANC have left, we were then left for 2 days discussing the contents of the report, and obviously various proposals were on the table. At the end, everybody agreed that the principal issue must be that we're still wanting to save the Federation from any possibility of a split.
Okay.
And on the basis of major disagreements about how we tackle that report or related issues. And we must work hard and we must give ourselves a space again so that cool heads can be developed in the next few days. And we're returning on the 7th of November. On the agenda of the Special Central Executive Committee shall be the issues that were already determined yesterday in the discussion. The first issue we will discuss is the status of the second Deputy President of Cosatu. There's been questions on how she moved from NUMSA to Pop Crew as to whether that is not a problem and whether she's still a shop steward. That we will have a discussion on. Second issue will give the NUMSA leadership an opportunity to make a presentation as to why it cannot be suspended or expelled from the Federation. These allegations that the union extended its scope in a manner that creates an overlap with the scopes of other Cosatu unions. The third issue we will put into a discussion is to give the President a chance to report on how he responds to the fact that a third of Cosatu unions have requisitioned him to convene a special national congress and sometime last year. And number four, we will discuss then the disciplinary processes inside the Federation involving the General Secretary and a staffer that was involved in relation to the whole question that was in the media last year. In that particular case, you will know that there was a process that was to be undertaken to address that question of a discipline, which was halted as a result of the intervention by the ANC. And I guess we will have to go back to say what have happened to that case, what were the charges, and how we respond to these charges, what were the charges preferred against the staffer that was dismissed for reasons related to allegations of fraud and misappropriation of the Cosatu funds, and what was the verdict on that, all of those issues. As we are doing all of that, we agreed that we will be guided by the ANC task team report, which I'm sure you have seen it because it was then leaked into the public.
Yeah. Okay, so this is all coming up on the 7th of November. So none of what you're talking about, so you just discussed at this particular CEC meeting what was on the agenda from the ANC. But now the issues going forward, the future of NUMSA, your future, is all to still be discussed on the November the 7th. During this break, time to be given to think about it. And now on the 7th of November, all of these will be concluded.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can have in that one day enough space to hear all the presentations and to be able to discuss those issues and in a manner that hopefully will keep the Federation together.
Is Cosatu in a paralysis moment at the moment?
There's no doubt about that. And it is in a state of paralysis, in my view, for the past 2 years in terms of the ANC report. Ever since this whole issue erupted into the public arena, the Federation have been spending a lot of time in discussing internal issues of divisions and who must be dealt with and suspensions and all of that. And the issues that affect the constituency, unfortunately, have been taking a backseat throughout this process. And as you know, I think we've paid a heavy price. And I think that the reason why people did step back yesterday was to appreciate the fact that a split as a result of the leadership questions was going to be such a devastation to the workers and their future altogether. Already, you know that we were battling against the need to have a total ban of the labor brokers. We didn't achieve that, even though we've got some measures that, if they were to be properly monitored, will make a difference in terms of our struggle to ensure that the labor brokers are not given a free rein to exploit workers willy-nilly. We've lost the battle against e-tolls, even though the new premier is giving us a new hope. Yeah. We've lost the battles for economic policies of the country. For the next 15 to 20 years, the NDP's economic and labor market policies are such anti-worker propositions that if they were to proceed, then we will see no hope whatsoever of ever attaining the goal of decent work in South Africa or closing the huge income disparities between the rich and the poor, or addressing the crisis of poverty and food insecurity, afflicting 14 million people, if you were to believe the Oxfam report that was released 2 weeks ago.
Zweli, I just want to end off this interview as well by talking about NUMSA and the formation of a workers' party. Surely this is in contravention of the policies of Cosatu, and also, how does the ANC feel about this?
Well, I don't want to speak on behalf of the ANC in terms of how it feels about that, except to say that obviously that matter was one of the issues that the ANC canvassed with the unions, and it came to a conclusion that overwhelmingly most of the Cosatu unions are still of the view that the tripartite alliance remains strategic. That's what strategic, and that's what the report says. And secondly, if there is a view, such as the view that is emanating from the NUMSA Congress, the right thing to do then is to take that view into the structures of the Federation, to discuss it, to canvass, and if that view wins the day, that will be a democratic process. But now That view have not yet been debated. Cosatu have not had a congress of its own to consider any proposition from any of its affiliated unions.
Okay, let's leave it there. Zweli, thank you for coming in. Thanks for talking to us. Zwelinzima Vavi talking to us about this week's CEC meeting. It was held just to discuss some of the task team reports that the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa spoke about on Tuesday. But now on November the 7th, major issues to be discussed within the ranks of Cosatu. Thank you for joining us here on the program.